Hello and welcome to another Delboy random gameplay video. I was looking at my game collection and also thinking back to the days where I was sort of like in the middle area of what I consider to be my gameplay history. The sort of period where I was now moving away from the Commodore Amiga and moving into the PC world. And I started to look at a few videos about PC gaming, and a lot of opinions are that PC gaming is a very soulless affair. It's not very nostalgic, and in some of the ways I do actually agree with that statement. If we think about it, all the machines that we were buying were in pre-built boxes. They were in a pre-defined shape and size. And when we got to our PC stage, we were buying at the very beginning on these early machines already built machines, which did come in a predefined box, a very square, blocky, whitish, possibly box. But later on, even just after a couple of years, we started to build our own, and we could make our own cases. We could have our own choice on what fans, what graphic cards, what CD drives, what color they were going to be. And so from that point of view, PC gaming is a little bit soulless because it has no shape or form. But what we have to understand here is that the PC has a stigmatism that basically always looks at it as a business machine. We don't really even now look at it as anything other than a productive machine, and yet it can do so many wonderful things. When I moved away from the Amiga to the PC, I started to buy a much more complex type of game, and I left behind such wonderful games on the Amiga, like such as shoot 'em ups, and some of those lovely shoot 'em ups were games like Hybris and Battle Squadron, just basically horizontal shoot 'em ups with a progression weapon system, and the idea was to get the highest score possible. So looking back, I forgot about this little gem called Tyrian 2000. Now it came from Epic Games in 1999 and offered a wonderful array of different options. You could play one player or two player flipping between the two, or you could actually play two player both together with two ships on the screen, or you could combine your ships and one person could do the movement and the other person could do the firing. Not only did it have the arcade modes that Hybris and Battle Squadron have, where you destroy creatures and your weapon system would upgrade based on drops from the enemies, it's also had a story mode where you could actually buy your ship's equipment at the beginning based on a military system, and that was all that you had through the game until you got to the end of the level, and then you upgraded again, and it had a story. To be quite honest, this is probably one of the most feature-packed shoot 'em ups I've seen, and one of the most fun ones as well. So I thought, well, let's do a little video on it. I'm not particularly the best at shoot 'em ups. My gameplay is not fantastic, but I thought, hey, why not? So we'll press escape and go to the main screen here. We'll start a new game. You can see that one player full game or arcade mode. We'll try arcade mode at first. There are 5 missions, for which we'll start with the first one on easy. And as you can see, because this is the arcade mode, there's nothing for me to change about my ship. All I can really do is start the level. Here we go. Now, the one thing that you do have to do really is change a few options just before you start, because it does reset to basics. So I'm going to change this to normal, and you can see that the speed is now speed up to the more arcade levels. As you can see, it's quite fast now. Need to tone that down just a little bit. We'll put it to slow. That's a little bit better. So the lead out on the right sort of like gives you an indication of your shield and ammo, for which obviously you have some at the very beginning. It's quite lenient, it eases you in. But then you've also got front guns, rear guns. That's because as the weapon system progresses, you can switch between how you want to fire. So I've just pressed the right mouse button and I fired some bombs. Excuse me there, where I was picking up a weapon. And when I left click, I just fired my main weapon. Now we've got some missiles. There's a power up for that missile, some coins, and some money and high scores. And to be quite honest, I'm actually quite impressed when you consider the graphics of the time. 1999 is very early in PC gaming history. It's quite smooth, quite fast. And it so looks like Hybris at certain times, which really makes me smile, because Hybris was definitely one of my favourite games. There's stuff on the ground, stuff in the air, always power-ups to think about. There we go. And like I say, it's got those trappings that if you pick up the wrong power-up, stupid you for picking it up and being greedy, but also you can change it later on by destroying a few weapons. It is a little bit forgiving, and this, by the way, is the very first level on easy, so I'm not expecting anything too drastically bad going on here. I'm pretty sure you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to nostalgia. This wouldn't look out of place. So we're talking 1999. It wouldn't look out of place on a Genesis, a Master System, any of those consoles. It definitely wouldn't look out of place on the Amiga. It definitely has that Amiga look. So it has that Atari ST. Probably a little bit. You're asking too much for this for anything other than later Commodore 64 games. The Commodore 64 had a wonderful array of these types of games. But really, when you came to this sort of graphic fidelity, you were definitely talking the Amiga era. Like I say, what I really like about it, I'm playing this on a joystick at the moment, is that you can play this with a mouse, you can play it with a joystick, you can play it with a controller and keyboard. So a lovely and wonderful array of options. Okay, so hopefully this will be the end of level.
Large enemy approaching.
Large enemy, yes. And I suppose now it turns into a little bit of a bullet hell. Ooh. Keep out of its way for a minute. Whoa! That was a bit unexpected. Yes. Oh, no. Led me into a false sense of security there. And that's the end of level 1.
Completed.
And out of all of that, even though on easy, I only destroyed 58%. Press a key, and as you can see, you're just progressing now. So if I start the level, it'll be the second level now. And we'll just show you a little bit of this level, just to show you that the graphics do change a little bit. It looks very much like we're partly in space. The weapon system again is continuously progressing. We've got a few asteroid type things going on now. Every time I look at those little men, they remind me of Into the Eagle's Nest, or those top-down gauntlet type games. Just the top view of their heads, like the Alien games that were on the Amiga. Just very amusing for me, very nostalgic. As you can see, I'm updating a weapon now that's now got sideways control. I've got cannons coming out of me left, right and centre. Now got multi-cannons. These are all power-ups. My god, I've now turned into a firing monstrosity. And the amount of weapons that are going on the screen at the same time. And I can see most of these creatures very easily. They don't blend into the background quite as much as other games. That might be because of the palette that they're using. It's still difficult at times with these asteroids being grey, but nothing terrifically bad. And I'm sort of like going to end it here. I'm going to press escape and quit the level. Because I'm going to quit the game and just show you what I mean by full game, which is story mode. Put it on easy again, and you can see that the menu now is totally grown up. It tells you that there's some data. You can read these cubes for the story. You can go to see your ship specs as they currently are at the moment. But we're going to upgrade our ship, and as you can see, I can change quite an awful lot here. I've only got one ship that I can choose at the moment, but when it comes to the front gun, I can spend this amount of money, and this is how much each of the weapons costs. So I could have multi-cannon, Vulcan cannon, Protron, and I think we'll choose the multi-cannon. It seems to be the best one, I think. No, I'm going to choose the Vulcan cannon. No, yeah, the multi-cannon, sorry. And then I'm going to increase the power of it, which will cost me a little bit more money. And we'll have a freeway on the multi-cannon. That's great. Then there's the rear gun. So I can have firepower coming out of the sides. There's the money that it's going to cost. So I can fire sort of like lasers or sound speakers or just a power of 1, 2. You can see that they're firing little blocks out the back of it. I'm going to go with the sonic wave. That looks quite good. And just increase. No, I'm just gonna. I don't want to fire. I usually tend to find that things that are on the side are just going to fly past me, and I'm not going to pick up anything. So I'm just going to have the very basic wet there. Then we're going to have shield, and at the moment I'm going to have that highest shield that I can. Tend to find that I'm not very good at these games. Now the generator is interesting because you don't want to scrimp and save here. See the power here? If you build up your weapons too quickly right at the beginning and you don't have a big enough generator, you're going to starve yourself of being able to fire. But you also, at this early stage, not going to be able to buy too much. So we'll have to go for this £2,000 or 2,000 coin one. And when it comes to side firing, I've got Plasma Storm, Minto ship, which you can see now I've got a little green laser that's firing up, or I've got the weaker satellite one, which is the same colour. Excuse me. So we'll have a side on the left, and by that, and we'll also have a right one to match it. I could have gone for a sound. No, can't buy any of those, they're too high. And I'm quite happy with that lead out now. So you can see, look, here's sort of like how I look power-wise from the game's perspective. There's my sidewinders, there's my shield. I'm quite happy with how that all looks. And we'll hit the start level. And now we've got a map. And that's because when you're playing story mode, you can save and you can actually continue from where you save. And there is a map so that you can take different paths in the game. So we'll try Tyrian.
Good luck.
which will look just like the arcade's first level, which we've just been through. So there shouldn't be any surprises here. But you can see that my weapons are now set, and there won't be that many drops other than coins, because you'll want to pick up the coins to buy your weapons. You can see, look, I can choose between just firing lightly like this, or with my side weapons, or fully, and depending on how much I'm firing, I'm using my generator.
Data acquired.
So sometimes you're going to have to stop firing so that you can build up your energy and generators. See, my shield goes up on the left hand side the less I'm firing. So you've seen all this before, but just find this game so fun to play.
Data acquired.
That data acquired, you want to pick up as many of those as you can, those data cubes, because that aids to the story. Just excuse my coughing, I do apologise, I've been under the weather just recently. But like I say, I don't seem to find too much slowdown going on. I don't seem to find things blending into the background. The movement just feels wonderful in a controller hand. In a joystick I play it as well, and it's just so easy to pick up. It is a little bit more difficult on keyboard because of all of the different weapon lead-outs. Now, I read a little bit of this game on the internet, and that where you saw that lead-out where I was building up my ship, there are 20 million combinations. Also, just like in the old days where we used to put in codes for cheats, there is another game inbuilt into this game. They were working on two games at the same time. They put a very early version of that game hidden into the code, and you can access it by putting in secret codes at certain areas of the game, such as in the menu system. I'll leave that for you to play around with. And I just want to mention that you could get this game for a pittance on GOG, which is Good Old Games. Okay? But the other thing I want to mention is that there is an open source version of this, which is more Windows native. It will give you 60 frames per second, which this one is locked at 30, but it won't have all the missions. There are 5 missions to this. If you buy the open source, or sorry, get the open source for free, you only have 4. So there are some things that you need to consider for yourself. You just need to bear that in mind on which way you want to go with this. Now, I went down the good old game route. This gives me the options of having MIDI playback if I put my Soundwave or Sound Blaster sound card into my PC, so I can have Roland sound fonts. And I just really wanted to show this game off. We'll get to the boss if I don't die. No, I died. And we'll just do a roundup. So, as you can see here, I died, and it wants me to go again, which I can do. We'll go back to the main menu and to the high scores. So, just to round up, this is a game from 1999, and really harks back to those very lovely early days of me playing shoot-'em-ups in the arcades, but more to do with my Amiga game history, where I was playing Battle Squadron and Hybris. I totally recommend this game to anybody that's got a PC and needs to sort of like just think back to those early days of playing on the Amiga and want to just pick up and fire action. And with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed some aspects of this game, and I hope it encourages you to pick it up if it's something that takes your fancy. I definitely give this one the thumbs up, and until next time, thanks very much guys, bye bye.